And a very pleasant good morning to you all. It is Tuesday, April the 3rd, 2018, and we are on the road to WrestleMania. It is WrestleMania week here, and it is quite an exciting little time for the Queen City Express podcast. Hello, everybody. My name is Biff Kensington. I am your host. Ryan Saya will be back with me next week. Unfortunately, he got held up today. But we have a full WrestleMania preview lined up for you this morning. It's going to be a big card. We've got 13 matches confirmed, looking like we're going to have 14 if they ever get around to deciding when Undertaker and John Cena are going to be made official. Today's show is coming to you a little bit early compared to what we would normally be doing. Of course, Ryan, myself, and several of our little wrestling troupe are going to New Orleans, God willing, this week. We'll be leaving in a couple of days, and so we're going to come at you a little bit early with the special WrestleMania preview edition of the Queen City Express. In the weeks to come, we will be kind of finalizing some details. As many of you know, this show is still very much a work in progress. We're kind of getting our feel for everything. And again, a special thank you to everyone that's been so supportive of this podcast, so supportive of us, just getting everything organized, getting everything started. It means a lot to us here, and the feedback that we've gotten has really been helpful, really meant a lot. So as we get everything kind of finalized, we'll be coming at you a little bit more regularly than we have been. It's really been kind of a whenever we kind of feel like it moment in terms of podcasting over the last week, but that's also been partly due to the schedule that we've been keeping. Today, we're going to be running down the card. Also, going to be talking about some rumors that have been making the rounds in the last couple of days. WrestleMania week always seems to produce quite a few rumors, and this year is no different. Do want to go ahead and talk about the pre-show matches, which were confirmed last night. If you missed Raw, it has been confirmed. There will be 3 matches on the pre-show. There could be a fourth if they decide to add another tonight. As it stands now, though, we do have a confirmation. Both the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal will be on the pre-show, in addition to the Cruiserweight title tournament final between Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. So those are the 3 matches that we're going to be watching on the kickoff show. Now, according to WWE last night, the kickoff show will be running from 5 to 7 p.m. It would seem that the 6 to 7 p.m. hour will be on the USA Network, and we will have to wait and see whether all 3 of the pre-show matches will be taking place in that hour or not. If memory serves, last year they did actually start some of the pre-show matches in the first hour. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case here. Obviously, that first hour, most people will still be filing into the building. Hopefully, they give everyone enough time to tell the right stories on the pre-show. To be quite honest, I'm not exactly sure why they don't just consider the first or the second hour of the pre-show to be part of the main card. I don't know that it would hurt anything. You're not adding any more time to the overall presentation. 2 hours of pre-show and 4 or 5 hours of main show. It's going to be the same if you eliminate one of the pre-show hours and make it part of the main card. But be that as it may, both Battle Royals and the Cruiserweight title are confirmed now for the pre-show. And so that's where we're going to start with our little preview here. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, this one is really hard to call simply because we don't know who all's going to be in it just yet. There is the possibility for some surprise returns. One of the big names that has been rumored to be returning in the Andre Battle Royal is Big Cass. Big Cass, of course, been out for several months with a knee injury. Fortunately for Cass, he seemed to be separated from Enzo during Enzo's scandal and release from the company. So he's going to be kind of coming in on fresh legs, no pun intended. He's going to be getting a chance to run as a singles competitor more than likely, unless he winds up as Braun Strowman's tag team partner. So Big Cass has been rumored as a possible choice to win. Not exactly sure if we're going to see Bray Wyatt in the match or not. Bray may not be back for a little while. There are rumors that he's being repackaged or at least retooled a little bit. So whether he comes back for WrestleMania or not is yet to be seen. Matt Hardy will be in the Battle Royal. He was fondling the trophy last night because that's what Matt Hardy does. Jeff Hardy has apparently been backstage the last 2 weeks. He could be a surprise return. We'll just have to wait and see who all actually does wind up in the match. So I'm not going to be able to make a prediction for the Andre Battle Royal. I will, however, be making a prediction for the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, and I think we should go ahead and lay that out right now because there are quite a few storylines here that are worth paying attention to, the most obvious of which would be Sasha Banks and Bayley. Again, Sasha and Bayley last night kind of tore at each other. Sasha saved Bayley from a beatdown by Absolution, and then requested, of course, Bayley celebrate her having saved her, which went over like a fart in church, as you can imagine. Bayley and Sasha then started tumbling around. My opinion on this whole deal, I've been a pretty vocal critic of Bayley as the face in this situation. It's all somewhat facetious because the whole feud itself, actually, I have been quite a fan of. And I am looking forward, however, they decide to go with it. But Bayley and Sasha have the most prevalent issue going into the Battle Royal. It would make sense that they're going to be there near the end. But there's also another storyline that's kind of been under the radar that I think people should be paying more attention to, and that's the story with Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch seemingly been spinning her heels on the Blue brand now for the better part of a year, ever since she lost the SmackDown Women's title. Becky Lynch has actually looked quite strong the last several weeks. She picked up several big wins last Tuesday, including filling in for Charlotte in the Mixed Match Challenge, where she did wind up pick up the deciding fall in that match and then got her name promptly mispronounced by Kurt Angle. Be that as it may, she's on something of a winning streak. Becky Lynch has looked particularly good in the month of March. And as we enter April and the final show before WrestleMania, it would be very interesting to see if Becky Lynch continues this hot streak she's on. It is very possible that Becky Lynch is being set up to win the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal in order to position herself as Asuka's first challenger. Asuka, the presumptive favorite to win the SmackDown Women's Championship, which we'll be talking about a little bit later in the show here today, will need strong challengers to help give her title reign some credibility right out of the gate. Becky Lynch suits that need just fine. One of the best in-ring performers that SmackDown has in their women's division. I don't believe you're going to run a rematch with Charlotte immediately. That seems like more of a big match show that you would want to run the rematch for. So Becky Lynch makes a lot of sense. And if you want to build up Becky Lynch as a contender against Asuka, there are a few better ways to do that than by having her win the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. It would be interesting to see how they incorporate Becky into any potential Sasha Banks Bayley showdown. Obviously, if Bayley is intended to be the face, Becky Lynch would probably gravitate towards helping Bayley. But you never know. You could get a reunion between Sasha and Becky. They were once a pair down in NXT, so that could be an interesting little Easter egg for longtime fans. I am going to be picking Becky Lynch to win this match. I think she needs it. I think that she's earned it. She most certainly deserves it. And it suits a lot of needs for SmackDown. It'll help them very much moving forward. I think SmackDown's title picture, with respect to the challengers lined up for Asuka, is a bit more in flux than Raw's title picture. Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, that feud very well could carry on past WrestleMania. I don't think Charlotte and Asuka are going to be feuding coming out of WrestleMania. So I do believe that the Women's Battle Royal is a good time to set up Asuka's next challenger. And really no one on SmackDown is more worthy of that honor than Becky Lynch. And so that's who I'm going to go with in the first ever WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, assuming you don't count the Battle Royal from WrestleMania 25, which was quite the little comedic gem from Twitter yesterday. And finally, the Cruiserweight title tournament final, Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. This is a match that a lot of people are excited about, and for good reason. If you've been watching 205 Live the last several weeks, you have seen sort of a renaissance for that show. Probably the closest it's come to capturing the atmosphere and the environment that made the Cruiserweight Classic so fun to watch several years ago. The show itself has done an excellent job of building up both Cedric Alexander and especially Mustafa Ali as likable, credible contenders to this championship. They have both been two of the strongest competitors in the tournament from a qualitative standpoint. Buddy Murphy also did very well for himself. And we'll be talking a little bit about the future of 205 Live here in just a moment with Buddy Murphy winning the number one contenders match on last week's edition of 205 Live. So whoever wins the title coming out of WrestleMania does have their first challenger lined up. Cedric and Mustafa, they both have a strong case to win. Both have been portrayed as underdogs at different points. Both have inspirational stories that have been made public. Both are being pushed as worthy champions by the company. Unfortunately, there can only be one winner. I am very much torn on this match for one very obvious reason. I am a homer at heart. Of course, QCE headquarters here in Charlotte, North Carolina will always defer to the hometown hero, which in this case is Cedric Alexander, the Queen City's favorite son. My heart wants Cedric, but my mind believes that Mustafa Ali will be the new cruiserweight champion coming out of WrestleMania, and he will be set up to face Buddy Murphy. However, this does beg the interesting question of whether Buddy Murphy will be playing in the heel role or if he will kind of stay as the pseudo face that he's been playing since he arrived on 205 Live. It could be a complete irrelevant point of conversation, especially if Triple H and company intend to continue having 205 Live follow the Cruiserweight Classic model of storytelling, where traditional heels and faces will be fewer and farther between. But I am going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that Mustafa Ali probably will win the Cruiserweight Championship tournament here, although it would absolutely do my heart a great level of joy if Cedric manages to pull it off. We will be rooting for Cedric, quite obviously. So if you hear a couple of shouts early on in the Superdome before it's full, that's probably us. That is the pre-show as it is laid out right now. If they add another pre-show match tonight, we'll just have to wait and see. Everything else on the card looks to be finalized with the lone exception of John Cena and The Undertaker. A lot of people expected this match to be formally announced last night. It was not. We will see if they announce it tonight. It would appear that the plan moving forward is for Cena and Undertaker's match to be something of an impromptu match, if that match even happens at all. Now, I think it would be quite foolish if the match does not take place, given the build-up for it. You could make the case that perhaps they're trying to set up a future match, and maybe what they do in New Orleans will kind of be a teaser to that, but that just smacks of false advertising. And I know that's very weird to say, considering they haven't actually advertised the match, but wrestling fans are conditioned to believe that something's going to happen, even if they're told it's not. That's just the nature of the business, and everybody believes that Undertaker and John Cena are going to be competing in some fashion in New Orleans. A lot of people are curious whether The Undertaker will come out in the American Badass persona or quote-unquote Biker Taker. If you've been following along in the daily and nightly threads, you know my opinion on that. I'm very much in favor of the Dead Man coming out. The Undertaker, the vast majority of his worth at this point in time is his entrance, and quite frankly, the Biker Taker entrance is just not as aesthetically pleasing as the Dead Man entrance. But whatever your mileage is on that issue, I know a lot of people want Biker Taker to come out. He will almost certainly be out for a match with John Cena. I can't see any way around that now at this point. But we'll just have to wait and see. It is something of a curveball that we didn't get a formal announcement one way or the other last night, so we'll just have to see how WWE decides to play it. This has definitely been one of the most unusual builds to an Undertaker match in recent memory. Would not say that it's necessarily been a lazy build. That would definitely be a good qualifier for the build to WrestleMania 31 between Undertaker and Bray Wyatt. That was not a particularly pleasing build up to that particular match. This just felt more unusual, more awkward than anything. John Cena playing Really just an unlikable character, even more so than his typical character. In the last couple of weeks building up to this, it's just not been a very flattering characterization, which kind of begged the question if he was intending to play heel in this or not. He was apparently the babyface last night. Atlanta, kudos to you. You've unlocked the key to getting big shows, apparently, because cheering for Roman Reigns, as you did in the main event segment, and then cheering with Cena, that would probably touch Vince's heart. So good on you, I guess. But we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. It's been a very unusual build, but it would be disingenuous to say people aren't looking forward to this match in the WWE fan base. It gets a huge reaction every time it's teased. So Cena and Undertaker, WrestleMania, that's probably going to be one of the feature matches. Could even be the main event, depending on how things break down, but we will have to wait and see on that one. If it's not confirmed tonight, I would imagine it will be an impromptu match on Sunday. But the other matches that are confirmed, these matches are locked in, signed, sealed, and delivered. And we're going to go over them right now, beginning from the top down. We're going to go through our championship matches here. And we'll start with the main event. The Universal Championship is on the line. Brock Lesnar will be defending that title against Roman Reigns, a match that has been quite the controversial point of contention for a lot of fans online the last month. Yet again, another segment between Brock and Roman last night. Of course, this time Roman getting cheered for the most part, and then getting overwhelmingly cheered as the segment progressed. So this is definitely a turning point for Roman compared to weeks past where it was a more mixed reaction. It would seem that WWE's plans to get Roman cheered have come to fruition. It only took them 4 years, so better late than never. This one almost certainly ends with a Roman Reigns championship victory. Cannot see any way around that. I think, quite frankly, any result to this match that winds up with Brock Lesnar leaving with the title would have to be considered the biggest upset in WWE's recent history. For certain, one of the most shocking conclusions to a WrestleMania since Santa Clara and the cash in from Seth Rollins. This would probably surpass that simply on the value that Brock is expected to be leaving. This story with Roman has been building for so long now, and just cannot imagine Roman not walking out of New Orleans with the title. This match should be a very fun match if they let these two guys cut loose. I was a little surprised that we weren't given some sort of no disqualification stipulation. Given the nature of the brawls these two have had over the last 3 weeks, you would seem to be a shoe-in to have some sort of no DQ stipulation or even a falls count anywhere stipulation added to the match. No announcement of that, but I would imagine to see quite a lot of carnage and mayhem on Sunday. These two are probably going to tear the house down. Figuratively speaking, we'll have to wait and see what the crowd look like, whether they are up for the match or not. Really and truly, I think it's going to be worth it just to see the title back on TV regularly. Roman Reigns as your champion on Raw may not be everyone's cup of tea, but he will be a superior option to Brock Lesnar. The question surrounding Roman Reigns is what happens after WrestleMania, and we'll be talking about that next week a little bit, kind of laying the groundwork to see where they do in fact want to go with Roman. You have some people coming back from injury, Samoa Joe being the most obvious person there. Big Cass will be back, and he may have his singles push resumed. You also got Bobby Lashley that's supposed to be coming in. Some call-ups from NXT like Andrade Cien Almas, Drew McIntyre. So the picture is kind of wide open. Plus you have Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. We'll have to wait and see what the resolution of their Intercontinental title triple threat match is. But it's going to be a very interesting time on Raw to see where the Universal Championship is going. It will be nice to have it back on TV regularly, though, so that would be a benefit to look forward to, even if you're not very high on this match. One match that almost everyone online seems to be up for is the WWE Championship match. AJ Styles defending his title against Shinsuke Nakamura. Been a very understated build to this match, especially in comparison to the Universal Championship. AJ and Nakamura have been engaged uh, in a little bit of passive aggressiveness over the last month or so. Nakamura, in particular, seeming to get under AJ's skin. Uh, People have been kind of divided on the build to this match, but I think everyone recognizes this could be the match of the night in New Orleans on a card filled with very, very good matches. As far as the end result of this match, Shinsuke Nakamura would seem to be set up to walk out with the title. However, given the nature of the build, if one participant could be said to be the heelish figure in this build, and I would quote my good friend Taker's Minion, that not every match needs a heel, but if one wrestler in this match would be leaning in that direction, it would seem to be Shinsuke Nakamura with his uh, thinly veiled insults being lobbed at AJ. So it could be set up for AJ to retain. You never know. Depends on Vince's mindset. I think Nakamura does win the title. I think it's a big night for Shinsuke Nakamura. I believe this is what they've been building up towards ever since last year's championship program between Nakamura and Jinder Mahal. I think this has been building up on a redemption arc for Shinsuke Nakamura, and I think he takes the title here. Of course, the Intercontinental Championship will also be decided at WrestleMania, a big triple threat match. The Miz defends his title against Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Of course, The Miz, a proud new papa. If you watched Raw last night, you certainly got an earful about that. Congratulations to Miz and Maurice on the birth of their first daughter. So no ambiguity over whether The Miz will be in New Orleans. Pregnancy situation having resolved itself, he will be there and he will be defending his title. Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, what a match they had last night on Monday Night Raw. If you have not seen it and you get a chance to find that online, you should really do yourself a favor and watch that match. One of the best TV matches we've seen since the Gauntlet match the week prior to Elimination Chamber on Raw. Finn and Seth, we know what they can bring to the match. The Miz, more than adequate, able to hold his own. Triple threat rules are going to provide a lot of drama for this match. Really, one of the sleeper picks, I believe, for match of the night. This match has really been built up well over the last couple of weeks. The build has really picked up. I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities for feuds after WrestleMania. Of course, if Seth and Finn want to continue wrestling one another for the next 18 months, that is perfectly fine with me as long as they keep giving us matches like they did last night. Uh, Intercontinental Championship, this one's going to be a tough pick. I think Miz is pretty safe to drop the belt here. I think Miz will be taking some time off. He's probably going to be his last appearance for a few weeks. Between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, the apparent advertising material for the post WrestleMania shows have Seth Rollins as the champion at last count. And so I'll go ahead and say that Finn Balor will win the Intercontinental title in a little bit of a swerve. Frankly, Finn Balor makes the most sense as Intercontinental Champion. I think he would be a better long-term option, especially if they want to move Seth up to challenge Roman Reigns at some point, or move Seth over to SmackDown and kind of head up that show. I think Seth is really above the Intercontinental title at this point, to be honest. I think he needs to be on to bigger and better things. Finn Balor, on the other hand, he could use that title to kind of solidify himself, especially if he's not going to be in the main event picture anytime soon. I want to go ahead and go with Finn Balor. I don't think we're getting the demon entrance, though. I think they're going to hold off on that. Could be wrong, but, we'll have to wait and see. But that should be an excellent match. Very much looking forward to that. Its counterpart on the SmackDown brand is a fatal four-way match for the United States Championship. Randy Orton, the champion, will be defending against Bobby Roode, Jinder Mahal, and Rusev. Yes, Rusev is now officially part of the match. He was made official last week after scoring the winning fall in a tag match featuring Jinder and Rusev against Randy Orton and Bobby Roode. The Orton-Roode-Mahal feud has been building for several months now. I have to be honest, it's been less than nothing. in terms of being on my radar. Just have not been caring for this at all. Bobby Roode miscast as a babyface. Jinder Mahal miscast as a serious competitor. Randy Orton are just kind of slumming it with that title. Rusev is by far going to be the most popular person in this match. I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever about that. And I think Rusev could use the win here. Randy Orton gains nothing by holding that title. Bobby Roode, honestly, needs to be turning heel before he considers another run with the belt. And the less Jinder Mahal we have to deal with, the better, in my personal opinion. And so I'm going to go ahead and go with Rusev. That is definitely a pick of the heart. We will probably see Jinder Mahal walk out with the title because, of course, we will. But it should be a fun match with Rusev in there. If nothing else, the crowd will definitely be up. And to be completely fair to all four men, that match probably will be a decent match, if unspectacular. But with the crowd energy now being up with Rusev involved, I think that match is going to come across a lot more uh, interesting than it would have otherwise. And so we'll see the outcome of the U.S. title match, but I am going to go and take the sentimental choice in Rusev. The two women's title matches, of course, from the Raw brand, Alexa Bliss will be defending her title against Nia Jax. Uh, this one, look, you have to take it with a grain of salt. WWE, of course, using the fat shaming. Not a fan of it. Say what you will. Nia does not seem to be having a problem with it, which, I would never want someone to be put into an angle where they weren't comfortable participating in. Nonetheless, it just feels lazy to me. I don't like the fat shaming aspect of this. I think there were more creative ways to go about it, and that could definitely be a long-term perspective talking there. I remember fat shaming angles from the past, and so there's always that fear that they'll just fall back into the old ways. Creatively speaking, it's old hat. It's been done before. It's nothing too exhilarating. But Nia has definitely made strides as a babyface. I do approve of the turn. I do believe they've done a good enough job with this feud to make it a credible title match for WrestleMania, which actually, special credit to them for the work they have put in. It was not easy to get this match over with Bayley and Sasha and their feud kind of lurking behind it. So kudos to WWE. They did a good job getting this match set up. This is going to be my shock prediction of the match of the night, really. I have no real factual evidence to support this prediction, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I believe Carmella cashes in the Money in the Bank contract and wins the Raw Women's title. It's never been explicitly forbidden for the Women's Money in the Bank briefcase holder to cash in on the other brand's title holder. And of course, precedent from the Women's Royal Rumble this year would suggest that if the Women's Royal Rumble winner could choose her brand, it would only make sense that the Women's Money in the Bank contract holder would have the same privilege, especially since there is no Women's Money in the Bank contract holder on the Raw side. Carmella is the lone briefcase holder right now. So I think that could be an interesting workaround to the problem. It was posted on social media in the daily thread, actually, at Cage Side Seats this morning, that Carmella is about to become the longest holding briefcase possessor in WWE history. In other words, she will have held her briefcase longer than any other person has held a briefcase, Money in the Bank briefcase, in company history. I do not see Carmella cashing in on Asuka. And I, quite frankly, don't see her cashing in on Charlotte either. And she certainly is not going to have a successful cash in during the SmackDown Women's title match. That's just, I can't see any feasible way to make that work. But I don't think it's a good idea for the very first Women's Money in the Bank contract holder to fail cashing in the title. I think that kind of does a disservice both to Carmella and to the briefcase. I think the first Women's Money in the Bank contract holder has to successfully cash in. And if it's not going to be against the SmackDown Women's Champion, well, it's going to have to come against the Raw Women's Champion. And what better stage to do that than to do it at WrestleMania? I think Through some tomfoolery, Alexa Bliss manages to hold on to the title. Maybe she gets herself disqualified. I think Nia Jax lays her out. Uh, then I think Carmella uses the chaos to cash in, and I think it's going to be one of those interesting moments. The only possible outcome where I could see Nia winning this match, there are rumors that The Rock is supposed to be in New Orleans for WrestleMania. And we're going to kind of dovetail into another rumor here. One of the prevailing theories right now is that The Rock will be participating in some sort of angle with Elias. Elias, of course, with his musical gimmick. The Rock, famous for his rock concerts, could be a little interaction between the two. That would certainly be an entertaining segment for WrestleMania. But another possibility, one that is more kind of a fantasy at this point than any sort of realistic possibility, would be to have The Rock celebrate with Nia Jax. Kind of a replay of the 2015 Royal Rumble finish with Roman getting The Rock's endorsement. This would certainly go over far more easily than that did in Philadelphia. Will The Rock celebrate with Nia? Well, we'll have to wait and see on that one. If The Rock, of course, is there to celebrate the ring and give his endorsement to Nia Jax, obviously Nia's walking out with the title. I do not like the idea of Alexa Bliss winning straight up. I think that would be a mistake and a very bad one given the nature of the storyline. But I could see Nia getting some measure of revenge on Alexa and then Carmella cashing in. And quite frankly, I think that would probably be the best way to go. It doesn't hurt Nia Jax, really. It definitely gives Carmella a feather in her cap, and it doesn't really do much to hurt Alexa Bliss. You could pretty much swing that loss pretty easily. So I think that's the way they could go. That's what I'm going to predict anyway. But short of Carmella cashing in, I don't really see any way that Nia Jax walks out of New Orleans without the title. I would say Nia Jax would definitely be the favorite, assuming that a cash in is not possible. But that leads us straight into the SmackDown side of things. And this is, of course, the match that a lot of people are looking forward to. Charlotte Flair defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Asuka. This match, much like the WWE Championship match, has presented a bit of a divided reaction online, mostly from people who seem to be discouraged by Asuka's streak. My opinion on this match, quite frankly, they're out to lunch. I believe people that are criticizing the build of this match just don't know exactly what they're getting, which is unfortunate, but be that as it may, I'm going to defend this match quite vociferously here. This is quintessential storytelling 101 in professional wrestling. They've told this story from the beginning of the business. They'll continue to tell this story to the end of time. It is quintessentially wrestling at its best. You have the strong champion, Charlotte, the queen, undisputed best wrestler in the women's division on SmackDown and probably in the company. Definitely the spiritual leader of the Four Horsewomen, who pretty much set the bar for the women's revolution in WWE. Charlotte Flair, her legacy has already been established. She's already one of the all-time greats in the women's division. Then you have Asuka, undefeated for over 2 years, bringing her streak into New Orleans, presumably pending tonight's result of the Mixed Match Challenge, of course. But it's almost certain to be title versus streak at WrestleMania. Asuka, the strongest challenger Charlotte could possibly face. Charlotte, the strongest champion that Asuka could face. You have two of the very best going to duke it out one-on-one to see who is, in fact, going to reign supreme. It's Empress versus Queen. Only one can rule. Only one will bow. This is classic wrestling storytelling. Strong champion versus strong challenger. You build both up. You let them go at it and see who comes out on top. I am going to stick with my guns. I believe Asuka walks out with the title here. Of course, Charlotte being from, well, Charlotte, I will be rooting for Charlotte. That hometown homerism playing in here to my decision making a little bit too. But I think this is set up for Asuka to walk out with the title. I can't see Charlotte beating the streak, especially if Asuka and Ronda Rousey are indeed planning, uh, if that's the plan for WrestleMania 35, which I have no doubt is most certainly going to be the direction they go. And so I think that Asuka wins the title here, and I think she's going to be set up for a long reign. I think if you are not a fan of her streak, you might want to buckle up and get ready because I think that streak is going to last for a little while. I don't think Carmella cashes in here. I just don't see how that could possibly go down well. I don't think you're going to sacrifice the streak to Carmella unless you plan on having Asuka just snap and go full psychotic and murder ball everybody. But of course, stranger things have happened, and I am most certainly not a prophet here. I'm wrong just as much as I am right. So we'll see what happens. We could very well see a Carmella cash in because it's least expected. But I am picking Asuka to win the SmackDown Women's Championship here. Moving into the tag team picture here, 2 tag team title matches are scheduled on the Raw side of things. Cesaro and Sheamus, the Bar, will be defending against Braun Strowman and a partner that's to be determined. There is absolutely no clue who this partner is going to be. It does not seem that Elias is going to be an option. It does appear that Elias is going to be doing something else during the show, and so I think that pairing has kind of gone by the wayside. You could see Big Cass in the role. People have rumored Samoa Joe could be in the role. Somebody will be partnering with Braun, and I'm sure it will be either played up for laughs or it will be played up as a oh my god type moment. Braun Strowman is walking out with the title. I don't know who his partner is going to be, but I don't foresee them losing this match. Uh, a lot of people are upset that Braun Strowman is in the tag title picture as opposed to being in the main event, but I think people need to recognize that you don't need to rush people immediately. Braun Strowman is on the Austin 97 track. When Steve Austin was getting popular, they decided to do the double turn at WrestleMania 13 between him and Bret Hart. Steve Austin did not shoot straight up into the main event picture full time after that match. He did have a title match that year, but for the most part, Steve Austin was wrestling in the tag title picture, and then he went to the Intercontinental title picture. It wasn't until January in the Royal Rumble that Austin really took that final step into main event status when he won his second Rumble, the first legitimate Rumble match he had won. This is exactly what they're doing with Braun Strowman. He's in the tag title picture now, but he can walk right back into the main event picture anytime he really wants to. I think they're keeping him safe for now. He can have some good matches with the Bar. He gets to win a championship. He gets to be a prominent part of the show. And of course, that leaves the option open for them to push him into the main event either later this year or next year, however the case may be. Don't worry if you're a Braun Strowman fan. This is not an attempt to de-push him. It's not an attempt to cool him off. Braun Strowman is going to be just fine. As far as his mystery partner goes, I am sticking with the idea that I pitched several weeks ago. Other people have pitched it too. It's not exclusive to me. Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe would definitely be the most awesome tag team combination they could possibly put forward, barring some unforeseen call up. It would be interesting if James Ellsworth was the choice. Uh, any two man with those hands could walk out of New Orleans with the tag titles. That would certainly be a nice sight gag. Rey Mysterio apparently has been ruled out medically. He will not be able to compete in New Orleans. Of course, he's dealing with that bicep injury. So the rumors of a Rey Mysterio Braun Strowman tag team have predictably died out over the last week. We'll just have to wait and see who winds up being the partner for Braun Strowman, but I think Braun Strowman is winning the tag titles with whoever winds up being his partner. So I'm definitely going to go with Braun in that match. Should be a very fun match. Cesaro and Sheamus have kind of flown under the radar, especially with the SmackDown tag title picture being so hot right now. But they do deserve some credit. They have been carrying the Raw tag division for a long time now. So hopefully they're given their just due here in this match and get a little bit of time to shine in New Orleans. Their counterpart match from SmackDown, the Usos will be defending the tag team championship on SmackDown against the New Day and the Bludgeon Brothers. Now, there are rumors swirling that this match could be a TLC match. It would make sense given that the Dudley Boys are being inducted into the Hall of Fame on Friday night. It would be a nice little nod to the TLC matches of the past in WrestleMania history. It would also continue the trend of having a ladder match involved in WrestleMania. They've had ladder matches at WrestleMania 31, 32, and 33. This would be 4 years in a row if they do have a ladder match. I am interested to see if the TLC stipulation is formalized. It would be a little bit interesting given the fact that on Saturday night at TakeOver, there is a six-person ladder match scheduled. So it would be interesting to see if they decide to run with the TLC gimmick the night after running a six-person ladder match. That was the rumor this past week. It was apparently briefly released that the match would be a TLC match. Regardless of the stipulation, I am very pleased that it's going on the main card. Very happy that the Usos are finally getting a chance to show the world what they can do. This tag team rivalry with the New Day, of course, dating back to last year, has been fantastic. The Bludgeon Brothers are growing on me more and more each week. They're just a good old school classic monster heel tag team. And I think they walk out with the titles. I really do. I think the Bludgeon Brothers are going to take it. They've been built up well enough. I think it'll give the Usos a chance to chase them for a little bit. It'll freshen up the tag title picture scene. Of course, we'll see which tag teams wind up coming up post WrestleMania. The Authors of Pain and the Sanity would be the two preeminent candidates for a call up. Authors of Pain and Sanity would probably go on different shows. And so that could be a ready-made challenger for the Bludgeon Brothers, depending on how things shake out. But I do think the Bludgeon Brothers will be winning the tag titles at WrestleMania. And that, of course, leads to another pair of tag matches that round out this card. Of course, the mixed tag team match, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey in her debut, in-ring debut against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. It was a very fun segment last night on Raw with Rousey and Stephanie kind of trading shots there back and forth. Kurt Angle continues to be the dumbest man in wrestling by turning his back on Triple H, who attacks him. That gives Stephanie a chance to sneak up behind Ronda when she confronts Triple H and put her through a table. They've done as good a job as they're going to be able to do to get this match ready. The crowd in Atlanta last night was very much pro Ronda, so WWE's work in getting Ronda cheered has also been successful over the last couple of months. It should be a fun car crash match. I don't think anyone's expecting a technical masterpiece, especially given the participants. Given the nature of last night's promo and the constant usage of the phrase, "we make the rules," I'm tempted to say that there's going to be an over-the-edge 98 vibe to this match where rules changes get announced during the match that prohibit Ronda from using certain moves. That's just the impression that I got from the segment last night. I could be mistaken about that, but it would definitely add to the car crash appeal of the match, and it's a very effective gimmick when used properly. Of course, the last time they used this gimmick was down in NXT for the Bayley Eva Marie championship match several years ago. If you've never seen Over the Edge 98, I would heartily recommend checking out that match, the main event of that show on the WWE Network. Steve Austin and Dude Love had a fantastic match that night, but it was the storyline behind the match and the constant rules changes that really just made that match a classic. It's hard to do it justice here. I really could see that being a very similar vein to what we'll get on Sunday in the mixed tag match. Quite frankly, that would be the only possible way that Stephanie and Triple H can justify walking out with a victory if it's kind of a empty victory. So Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey will be standing tall when this match is over. They'll get to soak in the cheers. They will be walking out. I do believe Ronda and Kurt will pick up the victory. I don't believe Stephanie and Triple H would put themselves over here. If they do, it would be with so much tomfoolery that nobody is going to really consider this a real loss for Ronda. She'll walk out with her head high for certain. So barring any screwy circumstances, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey are getting the victory here in this mixed tag match. And finally, the final match announced right now, Daniel Bryan making his return to the ring after several years being uncleared for competition. He will be joining Shane McMahon, on paper at least, to wrestle Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This match was announced last week. Of course, if you've been following the news with Shane McMahon, he is on paper supposed to be teaming with Daniel Bryan here. Apparently, their issues are resolved. Of course, Shane and Bryan have been in a sort of undeclared Cold War over the last 4 or 5 months on SmackDown. But now both seem to be firmly against Owens and Zayn after the respective beatdowns both men got from them. Shane has been dealing with diverticulitis. Diverticulitis is a very painful condition. It can be a very dangerous condition if left untreated. It's essentially a type of infection in the digestive tract. It is a very painful, unpleasant experience. It's something Brock Lesnar suffered with, almost killed Brock Lesnar actually during his career in UFC. So you don't mess around with it. He also had to have surgery for a hernia at the same time that he was hospitalized for the diverticulitis episode. And so, quite frankly, I don't know how Shane is going to scrape himself up together to wrestle in this match. If he does, I think that he should be given some sort of medal because, quite frankly, that is obscenely risky to be wrestling that close to a hernia repair, to say nothing of the diverticulitis. It would not shock me, of course, in the slightest if we have a replacement for Shane. I don't know who that would be. Maybe a Dolph Ziggler. It's possible they have some sort of backup plan in place just in case. But absolutely, if Shane does go, I think this will be a very fun match. Of course, the emotion of this match is going to be off the freaking scale with Bryan returning to the scene of his greatest triumph in New Orleans. I am very much looking forward to this match and being able to cheer Bryan on in person. Uh, the finish of the match is kind of in doubt. It's a little less clear than the mixed tag match. I don't think that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Uh, it's very interesting. I don't know that they'll be going to Raw necessarily. Of course, if they do lose this match, that would be the only place for them to go. It's very much a kind of up in the air. I could see them going either way with this match, to be honest. I don't know that Bryan would be turning heel. That just there's just something unpleasing about that idea. I just don't see Bryan turning heel, which was kind of the rumor for the longest time before Bryan was actually clear that Bryan would go heel, and that would be WWE's way of trying to cool him off before he left the company. With Bryan having been cleared now, it would pretty much be, antithetical to WWE's bottom line to turn him heel. There's just too much money to be made with Bryan as the lovable baby face that everyone likes to root for. I'm going to go ahead and call this one Bryan and Shane picking up the win. I think Bryan wins in his return match, and I guess that would mean that either Owens and Zayn wind up being little terrorists for SmackDown and pop up at random, or they wind up going to Raw. I just think Bryan and Shane will pick up the victory. If they do turn Bryan heel, I would be extremely shocked, especially after the beatdown he got from Owens and Zayn. Wouldn't make any sense to turn Bryan heel at this point. So I think that Bryan and Shane will pick up the win. And that is the WrestleMania card. That is the card official as of right now. Of course, John Cena and The Undertaker will be taking place almost certainly at the card as well. That will round out everything. On paper, this WrestleMania looks fantastic. It looks like one of the strongest WrestleManias they've put together in quite some time. Of course, the last few years of WrestleMania cards have been a mixed bag. A lot of people have fond memories of 30 and 31. 32 was pretty much universally panned outside of the women's title match on that card. And last year had a lot of divisive opinions. the undercard of last year's show was one of the strongest in recent memory, but the main events did not deliver last year. I don't think that's going to be a problem this year, not with AJ and Nakamura in there and Brock and Roman being able to recapture some of what they did at WrestleMania 31. So this year's top of the card looks very strong. Should be a lot of fun moments. Of course, The Rock is expected to make an appearance. You can never rule out people like Stone Cold Steve Austin or Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair from these types of moments either. One of the interesting things regarding The Undertaker, will he have Kid Rock play him out live? Kid Rock, of course, will be there as a Hall of Fame inductee along with Goldberg, uh, the Dudley Boys, and others. Mark Henry, of course, will be going in. Hillbilly Jim, Ivory also. Uh, and the Warrior Award winner, whose name escapes me at this moment. That's not so much important. That will be taking place on Friday night on the WWE Network. If you're interested in the Hall of Fame ceremony, there will be an abbreviated Hall of Fame ceremony aired on the USA Network at 10 on Saturday evening. So right around the time that Takeover will be finishing up, if you missed the Hall of Fame ceremony on Friday night, you can watch an abbreviated version of it on Saturday evening. WrestleMania has gotten a little bit bigger over the last 24 hours. Apparently, not content to run with all the content they already have planned. WrestleMania week now features four tournaments that will be taking place at Access. This was news that broke yesterday. Apparently, there will be some tournaments taking place uh, all week, starting Thursday. Uh, the NXT North American Invitational will be taking place along with the NXT Women's Invitational. Uh, there will be some participants from 205 Live that will be there. Also, we'll also have some participants from some of WWE's partners. Progress and Evolve will have some people participating. This does lead up to the final day of Access on Sunday before WrestleMania, where there will apparently be some championship matches. The winners of the respective tournaments will be facing the NXT's champions on Sunday. If you go to Cage Side Seats, they have a full breakdown of all the tournaments that are scheduled. And of course, we could have some more events scheduled over the next couple of days. WWE's WrestleMania Superstore in New Orleans at the Convention Center, that apparently is going to be free to the public to enter. You don't need tickets to access in order to enjoy the Superstore down there. So if you are planning on going to New Orleans, that would be something to keep in mind. Of course, every major independent company in the world will seemingly have a presence in New Orleans this week. You can check out online. Full schedule of shows are available, too many to name here, but if you are going to New Orleans, you have more than a few options when it comes to pro wrestling. Evolve will be running shows this week. Progress Wrestling will be in town. Of course, the Ring of Honor Super Card taking place on Saturday, same time as Takeover. A couple of New Japan stars will be in town for that show. I do believe Kenny Omega and Dakota Ibushi will be wrestling at another independent show a little bit earlier in the week, too. So you'll have multiple chances to see Kenny Omega compete if you are a fan of the Golden Lovers tag team, which I myself am. I think they wrestle Friday afternoon in addition to Saturday evening. So really and truly, it is the best time of year for a wrestling fan. It's going to be a tremendous week. Of course, you can follow all the action at Cage Side Seats. They'll be doing a full rundown of the show, especially breaking down all the big matches. They've already been begun to do that. Of course, be sure to check in with all of our fellow podcasters from Cage Side Seats. Shooting the Breeze has a special WrestleMania Roundtable edition coming to you an hour early this Saturday morning. Normally, the start time for the Shooting the Breeze podcast with Taker's Minion and friends, that takes place normally at 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturday mornings. This week, it will be starting 1 hour earlier, so 10 a.m. You can be sure to check out the live stream. Always a blast. I had a lot of fun with them this past weekend. participating with them on the roundtable on the Shooting the Breach podcast, I should say. Be a special WrestleMania edition this week. Of course, Metal Matt has his podcast, the Ruthless Aggression podcast, that drops Friday evenings. I believe he's up to Unforgiven 2002 this week. Of course, last week we got a chance to sit down and talk about SummerSlam 2002, a very underrated show, classic SummerSlam. So that was a lot of fun last week. And if you want to catch out match review of Unforgiven 2002, be sure to tune in this Friday evening for that. Also, a couple other podcast notes. Dennis Cowie's Roundhouse Wrestling podcast. That should either be dropping some point early Saturday or before. Be sure to stay tuned to Cage Side Seats if Dennis decides to drop a little bit early. And of course, we await several other podcasts to drop. We very much looking forward to the future of the Queen City Express podcast. Again, want to thank everyone that participated in the trivia contest for our last call episode on Saturday. There will be no last call episode this Saturday, of course. We'll be in New Orleans. But that last call will be returning a week from Saturday. And so we'll continue the trivia challenge. If you missed Saturday night's episode, we are doing a special trivia contest for listeners, kind of a little token to inspire people to listen to the podcast, but also a way to say thanks for all the support we've received. Basically, each week on the Last Call podcast, a trivia question will be asked. You can email your answers to biffkensington2018@gmail.com. That is the official email account for the Queen City Express team. Winners will be chosen from a random drawing every couple of weeks. The prize this time around is a special souvenir picked up directly from the Superdome in New Orleans. So definitely be sure to check out next week's edition of the Last Call podcast for the next trivia question. It's a very simple process. You email the correct answer to a trivia question and you are entered into the drawing. That's all you have to do. No money, no price tag involved on that. Just play, listen, and have fun. And good luck to all those that have already entered. We'll be giving the next trivia question for this coming Saturday. It will be WrestleMania related, of course. And next week, we'll be dealing with the fallout from WrestleMania. I will be back on the Shooting Debris podcast a week from Saturday to give the live event experience. Of course, our regular edition of the Queen City Express will be returning next week. Ryan Saya will be back in the co-host chair. I'm getting tired of going solo here on these shows anyways, and I know it's nice to have Ryan on here. People seem to enjoy his perspective on things. May actually have a special guest lined up for next week, too. Don't want to throw the name out there just yet, but this would be quite the coup for such a young podcast if we're able to get this particular individual on. I am very excited about this. We'll hopefully have a little bit more to share with you on Twitter. You can follow me at Real Deal Biff. That's DILL like the pickle, because of course it is. Definitely drop a like on this video, subscribe for more content. We put up some videos every couple of days whenever we really feel like it. We are providing, of course, wholesome, clean family entertainment that everyone can enjoy. If you like the content, drop us a like. Be sure to keep in touch over at Cage Side Seats. You can find me there in the daily and nightly threads. Tomorrow, the second half of the WrestleMania's Greatest Matches That Never Was list will be posted. Of course, this past weekend, we dropped matches number 10 through 6. Very well received article. Very thankful to everyone who gave it a read, sitting at something close to 1,500 views at last check, which is really awesome. So the final part of that series will be released tomorrow, and then that'll be all from us this week. We're on our way to New Orleans on Thursday. Very much looking forward to the trip. We'll have a live report from New Orleans when we get back. And so, everyone, it is WrestleMania week. I hope you have a tremendous rest of your week. Stay safe. God bless. Enjoy it, folks. This is the Queen City Express. I will catch you on the flip side. Take care, guys.